Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Little Bit. We're so excited for our guest today. I can't wait for you to meet Karen. Karen, go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're all about.
Hi, my name is Karen DeHaven. I am the founding director of AHA Studio for Integrated Therapies, a creative arts therapy and counseling center in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And hopefully we'll be able to talk a little bit about what we do here at AHA and how we support our community and women, children, and families in our community.
I can't wait to peel like the layers of all that you're doing. Go ahead, share with the audience what it is you've been up to.
Well, we are, I'm actually really excited. Well, we've been providing individual therapy for the past 16 years. And we had groups open before COVID. Once COVID started, it really didn't make sense to be in group space. Well, we are relaunching our creative arts therapy driven social skills therapy groups. And along with that, we're also bringing in some classes for moms and their babies, ages 0 to 5, really helping families go back and be able to dive deep into the different developmental needs that kids have, because as they change, their needs actually change. But where do we learn this kind of stuff? Well, we can learn it here at AHA Studio with our developmentally focused creative arts therapists, play therapy. We offer here, as well as therapies up into adulthood, and all of the wonderful new programs that are launching are really our focal point right now, and we're excited to be offering it in Bucks.
Yeah, it seems like you're doing so many great things. How'd you get so passionate about what you're doing currently?
I have always been a underdog kind of person. Even as a little girl, I loved to run with the pack, and there was sort of a pack of kids on the street that I grew up on in Northern Virginia. And I always had this tender spot for anybody who might be left out or fallen behind, or it even really extended to the critters in and around our where I grew up. If an animal fell from its nest, or it lost its home, or died along the path, I was just always in that place of wanting to take care of the people and the lives around me. So, cut a couple decades later, and a master's in creative arts and therapy, and trained as a dance movement therapist, because I love to move. I love working with children, because children are always up for a moving healing process. And that's what it became really clear around college that I was here for a reason, and that this was the calling to create a space where people could come and be authentically themselves and learn how to manage hardships in ways that are gentler on the heart and gentler on the soul. So it's just
Well, it's one thing to like really have that compassion for others as you're growing up. What do you think it was about you that actually like made you want to like take all of that you had, that compassion, that empathy you had for others, and like turn it into this thing you're doing that really helps other people?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I as the youngest on the street when I was growing up, maybe of about 10 kids or so. I guess, I learned really early on that if I have something to share, And I am open to actually sharing my gift, then the chances are that it becomes a two-way stream. And so empathy and compassion are really just they're how I'm woven. It's how my heart is lives in this world, and so it just makes sense that if I could learn how to hold space for traumas and sorrows, which I was already holding space for among my high school friends and college friends. I was sort of the go-to person. If somebody was having a really terrible night, they had just broken up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, if they had drunk too much alcohol or experimented with combinations of, party endeavors, drugs and alcohol, I would end up being the person that people knew that they could call. And then I would invite them over, and I'd put my robe on because I went to school in New England, and we'd go down into the boiler rooms underneath the stone building that we lived in, and we would just sweat it out, and I would have people share their story and tell me what happened. And by sharing our stories, by being able to not be the only one with it, it exponentially increases the safety in our world, towards ourselves and towards others. And for me, that's the goal: a happier, healthier, and kinder world. Just one person and one family at a time.
Hi, my name is Justin Clark, and I'm the president of the board of directors for Driving Single Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit serving the citizens of San Antonio and Bexar County, Texas. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the great work that our organization is doing for the citizens of San Antonio. What you're about to see is just a few photos and videos of the way that we're changing lives for single parents in and around San Antonio, Texas. Our first giveaway took place in April of 2017, just one short month after the formation of our organization. John, a Bexar County resident, was the victim of a horrible drunk driver incident. He and his daughter survived the crash, and we were so proud to give our first car to this deserving family. Fast forward to 2020, a very difficult year for nonprofits. We were able to secure 4 vehicles for single parents in need. Our organization, including our board of directors, list of partners, and portfolio of people we've been able to help in San Antonio, continues to grow, and it's all thanks to donors and local community organizations that have helped us along the way. This giveaway took place in 2021 and shows that we continue to help single parents even after the struggles brought about by COVID-19. Because of limited funds and the overwhelming need, we at Driving Single Parents are incredibly selective with the people we help. Some are victims of domestic violence. Others had a spouse pass away tragically, or otherwise fell on hard times. These single parents show adversity in the face of challenge and aren't looking for a handout. We offer a hand up and help get them back in the driver's seat. Many of the single parents we help go on to graduate college, get promotions, get married, mentor others, and some have even been so touched by the gift we gave them that they have decided to join our board of directors to pay it forward and ensure the continued growth of our organization. If you would like to help our organization continue to grow and continue to help single parents in need in San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County, Texas, we would really appreciate your support. Please visit us online at www.drivingsingleparents.org. Thank you.
I love that. You know what I really love is what you said about, to be the only one who knows that story. And that just hit me in a certain way where it's like, you're right. Like, wow, how many people out there who are just holding on to the story they have, and
Yeah.
Nobody else knows what they've been through or grown through or struggled through or, came out of. Like, nobody really understands the full story. And so it's so amazing to be the person who gets to allow individuals to share that piece of themselves that's kind of scary. How do you navigate that when someone's vulnerable and they're sharing their stories with you? How do you navigate the emotions that go along with that? And also, how do you make them feel like it's a safe space?
Gosh, such good questions. It's interesting being, exploring things that, there are certainly, tools and techniques in therapy to keep the therapeutic process open and not flooded. I think one of the most important things when I was in college, people would bring things to me and I didn't know what to do with them. It hurt me to know some of the things that I would hear, or conversations that happened that were really sort of soul tearing and certainly self-esteem destructive. And I didn't know what to do in college, but when I went to graduate school, as a dance movement therapist, one of from day one when you walk into graduate school, we are in movement-based circles, dancing to music, moving to music, connecting and connecting to our personal movement, our personal story, and then finding that place where we begin sort of a moving dialogue, a playful dialogue between self and other. And it really is in the practice of that, of feeling into somebody's story. It can be verbal, it can be nonverbal, and empathizing at the body level, right? Embodied
Right.
empathy. And when that goes back and forth, there's a natural process to be able to hold space. I can relatively easily, whether I'm working with a nonverbal child or a nonverbal young adult, or very hypermobile, hyperverbal individuals, that to pick up rhythm and posture, being able to connect just at the allowing somebody's stories to touch into that personal space. Maybe that sounds sort of ambiguous, but that really is what guides the approach that I take into the therapeutic alliance, whether it's individual therapy or group therapy. Checking into and teaching people how to actually check in with themselves. What's happening right now? Noticing at the body level, noticing the sensations that are happening in the body, right? My feet feel like they want to like get out of my shoes. Might be something, and people think, oh, well, it's not even related. The embodied process actually is very much a related process. When we go out and we play games with children, they get the experience of what it is to synchronize with others and feel connected, or feel connected to the rhythm of the music in ways that, what? This child doesn't have language, and yet they completely understand musical rhythm, and that's how we can start having these conversations. When you attune, which is really, I guess, ultimately what I'm talking about, when you practice attunement on a moment to moment in every interaction, it's really natural to be able to hold space with people's emotional intensity and to ride it with them, right? That if something is becoming too emotionally overwhelming, then we are there together, and I can help guide people, one, become aware of that. Now I'm starting to flood. Now I'm starting to get overwhelmed, and to pause and say, like, what are you feeling? Like, I just have charts. What are you feeling? And as people get more and more connected to what they're feeling, what their body is sensing, and what they are actually feeling, I feel scared. I feel worried. I feel anxious. Whatever that feeling is, then, well, when you're feeling that way, what would help bring you back into a state where you feel more grounded or less anxious? And then we can live the process together, and we can celebrate when it's working. And then it goes over to being able to read the emotions of other people in the room, and then how to respond. I mean, I'm just talking about the steps of emotional intelligence. And yeah, it really begins with attunement.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so interesting. I love the part where you talked about connection. I feel like connection is like the biggest thing. Like when you have someone who understands that you're connected to them and you're like feeling what they're feeling and you're with them in that moment, they're more willing to listen. Have you found a little bit of that in your practice where, that connection part is really what it takes to kind of help move that relationship with that patient so much further?
It's the core of relationally driven therapy practices, and there are a lot of approaches to therapy these days. We've far exceeded psychoanalysis, beautiful practice, really necessary for intensive internal work. But to be able to tap into the different on our website, we have a number of different approaches and practices that are for clinicians work from. So CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is one of the most probably well-known right now evidence-backed practices to help us look at the way we're thinking about things, and how sometimes our brains can actually be distorting or maximizing or minimizing or doing these things that really aren't in service. And when we start being able to attune at the body level, and we create an environment that's beautiful and safe and warm, and then we start going in and we start looking at ways of unpackaging. Is that the only possible way of interpreting that interaction, right? If somebody has come to and shared a story and has a story running in the back of their brain that, somebody has malicious intent, let's say, and they were trying to hurt, or they were trying to bully, or they were trying to, make me feel bad about myself. With cognitive behavioral therapy, attuning and then being able to say, let's look at that. And is that always in fact true? Or is it maybe sometimes true? And so, moving away from stuck ways of thinking about things, right? First, there's the attunement, and then there are the skills and the techniques and the approaches and the gentle challenges to be able to say, well, let's look at this from a slightly different perspective. Or maybe it's through the internal family systems lens, a lens that I really enjoy bringing into my work, not only with kids, but also with adults. And in internal family systems, what we're looking at are the different parts of ourselves that show up either to run the story. A lot of times our emotional parts really just want to run the story. Those who are really struggling with anxiety, for instance, right now, then the anxious one, you sort of have to think of the movie Inside Out. And those were all of the different emotions inside of the main character, Riley's mind. it's sort of like that, that our internal parts come through, and some of them are exiles. We're not supposed to be driven by them, but they tend to be big emotional catalysts. So we have to get to know those parts. We have to start loving on those parts, as well as protectors. And protectors are just trying to keep us away from the emotions of the exiles. Protectors are trying to put out fires or solve problems. So they're really good, but sometimes when they're trying to take over or lead, they override the possibility of what could be another story or another way of looking at it. And coming into a relationship that is very relationally oriented, as intimate as therapy is, and earning that trust through connection and attunement, that's then what allows us to go in and get really vulnerable and start identifying these painful parts of our journey, and then recasting them, really rethinking about them and rewriting them.
I mean, there's so much to unpack here. What is your favorite part of what you do?
Cindy, my favorite part of my day is when I get to push away, because this is, I founded this center. And so I do a lot of administrative and procedural jobs. I love pushing away from my desk and walking from out of my office, and I pull a pocket door behind me, and I am in the therapeutic space. It feels, I don't know, I feel so privileged to have almost like a magical job. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but that's what it feels like to me. To be able to step into relationship with kids and families and women who are in our practice, and be able to assure them that there's hope. Now that we're talking about it, there's hope. And there's only one fundamental rule here at AHA. It's safe to you, safe to me, safe to everything and everyone. As long as we have safety, then we'll figure the rest out, right? But that fundamental commitment to safety and willingness to be able to think it through, sometimes act it out, right? Kids that I work with, a lot of them need to just act it out. As long as it's safe, they can be throwing stuff, they can be rolling around on the floor, they can be, smashing soldiers, they can be really doing and heading in any direction if we're doing more of a play therapy approach to the therapeutic process. And within that, as long as there is safety and that container is there, then anything is possible. And when you're in a space that allows so much freedom for authenticity, then vulnerability becomes more easily accessible. And when we're more vulnerable, we're more honest. If we're willing to trust and actually step towards that. And that's the environment, that's the holding space that all of our therapists here are carefully vetted so that they're able to actually do this, right?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Andrew Fraley, and I believe that sometimes we all need a little bit of help. If you're in the San Antonio community and you need some legal help, call me at 210-725-4658.
A big hug. Give them
Yeah.
like an emotional hug, like everybody comes into your unit. I'd love to hear that. Why don't you tell the audience an example of a little thing that they can do in their community that might just be a little give on their end, but might make a big impact on the other side?
So I loved thinking about this because I went through a number of different ideas and suggestions, and I think actually the one that I landed on is something that is often experienced here and actually helps build that safety and connection and container. And it's really easy. It's easy to do, but it might be mentally a trick for some people. But when I am meeting with somebody, I turn my ringer off of my phone. My phone is not more important than anybody that I am literally sitting with. And people know in my practice there is a Karen call. And the Karen call is a series of 3 different calls. You call my cell, you call the practice landline, and then you call my cell again, or vice versa, landline, cell, landline. And if I hear 3 consecutive calls coming, then I will take leave of whatever I'm doing or whoever I'm with and see if there's a true emergency that needs my attention. And outside of that, it's really very rare that we really need to immediately respond to something. And yet in this hyper tech world that children are growing up in and we're starting to progressively get more and more used to, the human to human relationship is really suffering. And one of the easiest ways and the sweetest ways to say, you are the most important person in my life right now, is literally just turning the ringer off and leaving it in airplane mode, leaving it in, I'll get to it later. Nothing is that pressing. I imagine there are maybe a handful of jobs. If you're a surgeon on call, that might not be possible. But for the most part, just turning the ringer off and arriving in the presence of whoever you are spending time with, I think that is so incredibly valuable at the individual level, at the relational level, and really even at the communal level, at the larger. We don't need our cell phones at dinner tables. Just turn the ringer off for that half an hour and just connect with the people you're with. I think it's simple, it's easy, it may lead to a visceral response like, oh, but somebody might need me. And that's really some wonderful work to work through, because there was a time before cell phones. I traveled in Europe without a cell phone as a 16-year-old. Good luck, call us once a week. We can return to that in these little tiny ways by just, in this situation, when you're hanging out with somebody or you're working with somebody or you're in a meeting, just turn your ringer off.
I love it so much. In fact, that's exactly what I do. When I'm with somebody and I'm connecting, I'm talking, I'm not trying to be on my phone. I have dinner with my kids. We have 6 kids, 6 grandkids, but the kids who are still here at home, every night we have dinner and we sit together and it's like no phone zone, It's like, put your phone to the side. Like, we're going to talk about best parts of our day, what we're grateful for.
Yeah.
And that's really important to me. And I know that it's kind of a lost art these days, It's my oldest daughter's 27 years old. And so I've been doing this for all these years, and it's something that I've maintained. And I think that a lot of families get lost in that, and that everything from the phone seems like an emergency, and it's not. I love that you gave that example.
Yeah.
Tell the audience an example of a time in your life where somebody did a little thing for you that might have just been a little give on their end, but really made an impact on you and in your life.
So, gosh, I loved thinking about this too, because I've had so much generosity shared with me, and I've lived a wildly supported life, which I am so grateful for. And during one of those life adventures, I was in a theater and dance program in New York City. It was sort of like my semester away when I was in college, because I was in English Lit with English Lit theater and dance with a dance concentration. It was a double major. And so I went to New York City to study in the art scene. We saw performances almost every night, sometimes 2 performances a day. We were inundated in the art scene. And I became just a follower of this one choreographer who came to work in our program, Nina Martin. Beautiful, tall, sort of Amazonian, powerful woman that was in the contact improv community. And I went to some workshops with her on weekends during the program. And this, after a workshop, this one time where we had been doing this really intensive contact improv and attunement and moving, off the ground and over heads in wild, beautiful ways. We walked out together, and the street was really windy, and she wanted to light a cigarette. And so I came in really close like this, and I'm, holding it around the flame. And she looks up over the flame as we're here, and she says, "Have you ever thought of dance movement therapy?" And I'm like, "No, what's that?" And she goes, "You should." And off she walked with her, mile-long legs, and I'm running along beside her. And then New York happened, and we never really circled back to what she meant and why she said that. And in this little tiny moment over the flame, she planted a seed in really fertile ground. And being able to take what is natural for me to connect and care and want to understand and know somebody's story and what they're struggling with, and if I can help, that merged with my love of movement and the power of the embodied storytelling. That's what dance therapy is. That's where movement and dance and the psyche all meet. And there she was telling me, like giving me the little seed light. And it was just this little, she probably doesn't even remember. I doubt she would, this tiny little moment. And, 3 decades later, here I am. I'm a, board certified dance movement therapist and licensed professional counselor. And, the creator of a therapeutic sanctuary where movement and music and art therapy and play therapy all merge and come together to provide the healing that's necessary in our community.
Ah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful story. And oh my goodness, you never know when your impact is really going to make a difference. You don't know. So everybody should try every single day to do something little. Why don't you tell the audience about a nonprofit that you're excited about?
So, gosh, there are so many amazing nonprofits, obviously, out there. But recently, a colleague of mine in the Bucks County area introduced me to the Live Project. And it is a nonprofit that helps create tools and games to lead us into fearless conversations that could potentially save a life. It is intended, and there is a really beautiful movie that has recently, I believe recently, has formally been launched, called My Sister Live. And it's the backstory behind this. When hope is lost and it leads to the threat of life, that is when we have to pause as a society and say, let's pause, let's stop, and let's figure out what it is that's missing that leads people to a place where they feel like there are no other options except to take their life. And the Live Project is a heart-centered project that is leading the way and carrying the beacon forward and saying, we don't have to live like this. we can live in a communicative, connected world together, and we don't have to be afraid of hard conversations. The Live Project helps guide us there.
I love it. What a beautiful nonprofit. I really appreciate you sharing the story of them and what they do. That's so incredible. And everything you've shared today has been so exciting and amazing and different than what we usually have on the show. So why don't you tell the audience where they can find out more about you and what you do and how they can get in touch?
Sure. Well, we just about a month ago relaunched a new website. So you can go to our website, ahastudiotherapy.com. Any of our socials, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, I believe they're all under at AHA Studio Therapy. And you can also, you can either shoot me an email, info@ahastudiotherapy. That will actually, this page, the Let's Connect page on our website, is a great way to send over a question or, anything that you want to get over to me at info@ahastudiotherapy.com. But at the top of our page, on all of the pages, there's also a little freebie. If you have a mental health question related to children or, coming of age, there is an Ask a Therapist link at the top of each web page, and it'll take you to this document, and you can pose your questions, and our clinical team will be answering 4 mental health questions every month, and you'll get a link to when we answer your question. So that would be awesome. We would love to be a resource. It doesn't matter crossing states, or even if it's, anybody can pose a question. And if you have one, we're happy to field it. And if somebody within the practice can't answer it, I'm going to find somebody who can. So.
Oh, I love that. I love you for being on today and sharing so much of your wisdom and all that you're working towards and helping other people. That's just amazing. If anybody wants to get in touch, she gave you all the ways to get in touch and find out more about what she's doing and how you can get involved. Also, if you're passionate about that nonprofit, please go visit their website. Find out more. If you're passionate about it, go make a donation. $1 or $5 multiplied by everyone watching this episode today can make a huge impact. Thank you so much for watching Little Give, and thank you so much for being on and being our guest. And for everybody out there, if you have any questions, please visit littlegive.com if you'd like to be a guest or learn more or highlight a nonprofit that you love. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for being on.
If you enjoyed this episode of Little Give, head on over to our website at littlegive.com. You'll be able to find all the information about previous episodes and past guests that we've had on. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Little Give, all the information is also on the website. And if you have a nonprofit that you love and would like to recommend be on the show, all of that information is also on the website. We really appreciate you watching today, and we can't wait to see you again next week.